If you're watching this video, I want you to take a quick look at your life, the good, the bad, the things that you're ashamed of and that you regret, and even problems that you might be facing right now. Now, as humans, we have a natural instinct, a reflex to place the blame on others. It's generally the first thing we do when we're having a problem or something is going wrong or we're not in the position that we want to be in life. We are so quick to outsource it to somebody else. It's my boss's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my wife's fault. It's my friend's fault. When in reality, there's only one person at fault for wherever you are in life and whatever you're facing, and that person is you. What's up, guys? Maf here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I run a global men's networking community called the Brotherhood of Ancestral Masculinity. We have over 100 members in countries all over the world, a lot with a focus here in North America, US, and Canada. And we get together a ton of times a year. We take trips all over the world where we can train, where we build each other up, where we support each other, network, and just become better men every single day. I also run a subgroup within that called the Academy for guys that are just starting on their path to masculine excellence. So getting into this video, essentially, the reason I wanted to start off with extreme ownership is because the more that I've thought about it and the more that I've learned it and the more that I've applied it to my life, the more that I believe that is a fundamental truth, that is a fundamental necessity for men who want to be in charge of their lives. Men cannot be victims. Society does not care about a man's problems. There are other people out there, women that can point fingers and say this is somebody else's fault, it's not my fault. And our natural proclivity is to take care of women, it's to protect women, but men don't get the same treatment. Modern society doesn't care about the problems of men. They only expect that you're able to solve those problems and that you're able to transcend your problems and that you're able to find solutions. And men by nature are problem solvers. So when you're placing the blame on somebody else and saying it's somebody else's fault, you're actively refusing to take steps to try to figure out what the problem is and how to solve it. Like we've all been there, right? You're stressed about your bank account. You're frustrated about your relationship. You're not getting the promotion you wanted at work. And again, it's so easy to point that blame to other people and pass that along. But when the problem is outsourced, that also means the solution is outsourced. That means that you don't have the ability to actually solve your problems because your problems are the result of somebody else. And that is just ultimately a trap. So extreme ownership is a term that was coined by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, Navy SEALs. They wrote a book about it in 2015. And while I won't spoil it, he's got a great TED talk that talks about where extreme ownership actually came from. And since they've built an amazing company, it just started out as just the two of them where they would go around to different companies and do consulting and sort of implement the leadership tactics and strategies that work for them on the battlefield to the boardroom. And I've attended a couple of their events. And as I lead the brotherhood and as I'm thinking about the kind of members and the men that I would want for my group, and also the guys that I don't want in the group, the number one fundamental thing that every man in the brotherhood must have is the ability to take extreme ownership. Everything else comes second. It's great if guys are in shape. It's great if guys make money. It's great if guys want to show up and do the work. All of that is perfectly amazing and fine. And that's what I look for. But the victim playing and the pointing fingers at others is an absolute non-starter. Like it doesn't even get you a seat at the table. Extreme ownership is not just a catchy phrase. And it's something that a lot of people think might be hokey. It's like, well, if everything's my fault, then that means nobody else has to take responsibility and that I just become a doormat that people just walk all over. And that's not really the case. The way that extreme ownership works in practicality is that it gives you the tools to actually solve problems between two parties or between a group of people. And it gives you the skills to solve problems interpersonally. So if you're in an argument with somebody, whether it's a family member, whether it's a close friend, whether it's your woman, your natural instinct is going to be to point fingers. If there's a slight, you did this to me, you said that wrong thing, I didn't like your tone in this particular situation. And if your goal is to win the fight and argue, then great. Point fingers and try to shirk the blame, go for it. But if your goal is to actually understand and then solve the problem and then strengthen the bond you have with that person so those problems don't continue to arise in the future, extreme ownership and taking responsibility for the hand that you played in that situation Understand that that is going to subconsciously free that other person to do the same. So if there's a problem, there's an argument. Again, like I said, the first natural instinct that you're both going to have is to point fingers. But if you extinguish those flames, if you calm that down early and say, hey, I didn't do a good enough job of explaining why this was so important to me, or I miscommunicated the level of importance or really the expectations that I held for you, because essentially that's really the only explanation for this. And when that person sees and hears that you are willing to accept either part or maybe even all of the blame for the problem and for the argument and for the mishap, that gives them the freedom to say, okay, this person is not going to jump down my throat and make everything my fault. It is not going to put me on the defensive. And there's a reason why pointing the blame is the most common thing that men and women both do. So if you take it back to our tribal times where if you were outside the wall, if you were outside the perimeter, especially whether you were a man or a woman, more so if you were a woman, but men as well, you were at the mercy of other potential tribes and you were at the mercy of other predators that could come along and essentially kill you. And so if you did something that was a big enough slight or that affected the tribe in a negative way, then they may ostracize you. They may kick you out. And now you're a lone wolf that dies quickly in the wild. So it would behoove you to try to make sure that you are not to blame for these things. So our monkey brain and our lizard brain hasn't necessarily caught up to this idea of extreme ownership, which is why it's a conscious decision that you have to make over and over. So think about all the excuses that you're making today. Think about all of the problems that you're passing on to other people. You and your girl got into a fight, it's because she's being a bitch. You're overweight and out of shape, it's because you don't have time to work out because you have other commitments that are forcing you to do other things. You're not getting the promotion because your boss is a dick. All of those things are outsourced and you're taking power out of your own hands, which is never going to actually allow you to solve the problem. Because guess what? Those people don't care about solving your problems. Everybody else is worried about their problems and how they're going to succeed. They don't have time to help you solve your own problems. You have to solve them yourself. Now, you might be saying, well, Moth, if all I do is take extreme ownership, I'm constantly letting somebody else off the hook, and they'll just accept that everything is my fault and they'll just allow me to take the blame and they won't take extreme ownership. What do I do if they don't take extreme ownership? That's a fair question. And there's another chapter in the book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, chapter 4, which is when to lead and when to fire. And essentially, your options are these: try your best and do everything you can to try to take the ownership, to lead, to guide. Most people don't need to be fired, most people need to be led. But if you've gone so far and you've exhausted all of these options and you've done everything in your power, everything that you possibly can to try and solve the problem by taking the extreme ownership, and the problem still persists, if that person still won't get on board, even though you're communicating in the right way that you should be communicating, you're doing everything that you possibly can to get them understand and get them to help you solve the problem, then it might just be time to cut somebody loose. And that can be a hard realization to have because this means relationships are going to be broken. You may sever ties with family members, close friends, even jobs and bosses, even employees that you really, really like. But if the job isn't getting done and the problems are persisting, you're going to go crazy. You're going to go insane on a long enough timeline. So part of extreme ownership is knowing when to lead and knowing when to fire and say, this is a relationship that is just irreparable and it's better off that we just leave it where it is. So this is my challenge to you guys this week. The next time you find yourself making an excuse saying, I don't have time, I don't have the money, or outsourcing blame to any sort of external circumstance, I want you to rephrase and say, I am choosing not to prioritize this, or I am choosing not to do X, or I'm choosing to do Y instead. And I just want you to see not only how your own frame of thinking starts to change and how you start to feel empowered about actually being able to solve problems, but watch how others respond to you and react to you. Watch how conversations that would stir up conflict and problems are now problem solving activities. They're now you or another person or another group of people working together to solve the problem so you can move forward in an amicable fashion. Hope you guys like this video. We're going to start putting out videos every single Wednesday. So make sure you click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you are notified when we go live. We also have live shows on Monday where I do my own live show. And then we have the ladies panel, navigating modern dating, at 8 p.m. on Mondays as well. We should also be bringing back the Sunday general shows. So I'll bring in my top guys from my community where we talk about current events, things that we're seeing with men, and just giving you guys a little bit of a way to get to know them a little bit better if joining the community and being part of a awesome, like-minded group of guys is something you're ever interested in. So thanks again for stopping by. I'll see you guys next week.